What if depression isn't an illness, but a profound spiritual signal? Imagine, for a moment, that every moment of despair, every heavy wave of sadness, isn't just a symptom of something wrong but a sacred message, a cosmic invitation to look deeper into your soul. For centuries, depression has been viewed through a clinical lens labeled, diagnosed, and treated as an ailment of the mind. Yet, within the corridors of ancient wisdom and esoteric teachings, depression is seen through an entirely different lens. It's not merely a chemical imbalance. It's not simply a mood disorder. No, it's far more profound than that. Could it be that depression, in its rawest form, is a spiritual awakening in disguise? A dark night of the soul, where the ego begins to crumble, and the soul is left standing naked, ready to evolve. In this video, we will explore the unseen, mystical side of depression, the hidden truths that have been veiled for centuries. We'll uncover why this darkness might not be something to fix, but something to understand, what ancient teachings can reveal about the very nature of suffering, and why, in a world obsessed with happiness, depression may be a necessary spiritual experience. But before we dive deeper, let me ask you this. Have you ever wondered why your most painful experiences, those moments when you felt lost, abandoned, or crushed, seem to echo through the depths of your being, as if they carry a hidden meaning, a lesson you cannot yet grasp? What if this pain, this shadow, holds the key to unlocking a higher consciousness? Stay with me as we uncover the spiritual truth behind depression. It's time to reframe what you thought you knew about this darkness, and discover how it might actually be leading you toward the light. To understand the true spiritual nature of depression, we must first look back at how ancient cultures and spiritual traditions have perceived suffering and what they understood about the mind and soul. In ancient Egypt, the concept of the soul was intricately linked to a delicate balance between the spiritual and the material. The soul, or Ba, was believed to be a divine essence that could fall into despair or even become lost. When the soul was in darkness, it was said to be weighed down by the burdens of life. But this weight wasn't just physical. It was a manifestation of unresolved spiritual conflict and healed wounds carried from past lives or generational trauma. The Egyptians believed that suffering was not only a part of existence, but a necessary force that called for spiritual purification. And depression, in this sense, was a purification process, a chance to reconcile the material self with the higher spiritual essence. The ancient Greeks, too, had a profound understanding of the human soul. In the teachings of Plato, the soul was immortal and constantly striving to attain knowledge and harmony. But in the journey of the soul, the darker aspects of existence such as grief, loss, and suffering served as necessary trials for spiritual growth. Plato's concept of the allegory of the cave demonstrates how humanity, imprisoned in the shadows of ignorance, must first face the darkness to ascend toward the light of truth. Depression, in this sense, might not be a trap. It could be the very experience that pushes the soul toward awakening, to break free from the chains of the material world and the illusions that bind us. Fast forward to the teachings of the East. In Buddhism, suffering or dukkha is considered an intrinsic part of human life. But unlike the Western idea of depression as something to avoid or fix, Buddhist philosophy treats suffering as a gateway to enlightenment. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering lies in attachment and ignorance, clinging to fleeting desires, avoiding pain, and not understanding the impermanence of existence. Depression, in Buddhist terms, could be seen as the result of excessive attachment to the self, to illusions of control, and to the idea that happiness can be found in the external world. To transcend this suffering, one must go inward, confronting the shadows of the self and understanding the truth of impermanence. It's a journey of awakening, a journey that requires facing the darkness to realize the light within. Esoteric Christianity offers another layer of insight. Gnostic teachings, which were once suppressed by the early church, present a radically different view of suffering and depression. According to Gnostic thought, the physical world was created by a lesser divinity, a demiurge, who trapped the soul in the material realm. The soul, longing for a union with the divine, is often weighed down by the limitations and sorrows of the body. Depression, in this context, could be seen as the soul's longing for liberation from the illusions of this world. It is not a curse. It is a divine calling, a signal that the soul is yearning for something beyond the material existence it has been bound to. In all of these traditions, one thing becomes clear: depression, suffering, and spiritual darkness have always been seen as crucial parts of the human experience. They are not random afflictions. Rather, they are invitations to awaken to deeper truths about the self, the soul, and the cosmos. In a world that values instant happiness and shallow solutions, these ancient wisdoms remind US that true healing and enlightenment often arise from the deepest darkness. As we move forward, let's explore how these ancient teachings can help us understand depression, not as a sign of weakness, but as a powerful catalyst for transformation. Depression, this word, so commonly used, often conjures images of sadness, isolation, and despair. Yet, beneath the surface of these emotions lies a deeper, more mystical truth. Depression is not merely an affliction, it's an initiation. Let's begin by challenging the conventional wisdom. Depression is not simply a malfunction of the brain, nor a fleeting mood disorder. The soul, in its wisdom, has a different perspective. The soul sees depression as a necessary moment of introspection, a moment when the illusions of the ego crumble, and the true nature of self is revealed. To understand this, imagine the soul as a vast, ever-expanding field of energy. It is connected to the cosmic flow of existence, timeless, boundless, and beyond our limited understanding. The ego, in contrast, is like a small, individual island, isolated in the vast ocean of the soul. Over time, as we grow, our ego shapes itself around our identities, desires, and external validation, creating a sense of self that is disconnected from the higher truths of the soul. At first, this egoic self serves us well. It allows us to navigate the material world and fulfill our desires. But as we continue down this path, we begin to encounter a problem. The ego is inherently fragile. It is built on constructs that are impermanent: our jobs, relationships, accomplishments, and even our physical bodies. These things are all transient, yet the ego clings to them as if they are eternal. Depression, then, becomes a wake-up call from the soul. It is the moment when the ego's foundation begins to crack, when the external validation and achievements we once relied on to feel whole no longer satisfy us. We find ourselves standing on the precipice of meaninglessness, questioning the very nature of existence. This is where the spiritual truth behind depression begins to unfold. It is a signal that the ego is dissolving, that the illusions we've built around our identity are being dismantled so that a truer, more authentic version of ourselves can emerge. But why does this process feel so excruciating? To understand this, we must look at the energy of the soul. As it begins to detach from the ego and reconnect to its deeper essence, it experiences a form of spiritual death. This is the true nature of the dark night of the soul, a term made famous by the mystic St. John of the Cross. It is not a death of the physical body, but a death of the ego, the death of the false self. And as with all death, this process is inherently painful. The pain of depression is not the result of a failure, but rather the result of a sacred transformation, taking place at the deepest levels of the psyche. Just as a seed must crack open to sprout into a new life, the soul must endure this spiritual contraction before it can expand into new possibilities. It is the soul's growing pains, often misunderstood as an illness, but in reality, a sacred process of rebirth. At this stage, you may feel as though you are losing yourself, as if you no longer recognize the person you were. This disorientation, this feeling of being lost, is precisely what needs to happen. The ego has to be lost for the soul to be found. This is a necessary unraveling, a stripping away of everything you thought you were, so that you can remember who you truly are. But the journey does not end in suffering. In fact, it is just the beginning of a profound spiritual awakening. The first step is acknowledging that the darkness you feel is not your enemy, it is your guide. This is the paradox of depression. The very thing that feels like a curse is often the doorway to the divine. As we delve deeper into the spiritual nature of depression, we begin to uncover the deeper layers of this transformation. If depression is an initiation, what exactly is it preparing us for? The answer lies in understanding the paradox of the soul's journey. The more we resist the darkness, the longer it persists. Yet, if we embrace it, we can unlock the power of profound rebirth and spiritual growth. Consider the concept of shadow work, a term widely used in modern spiritual practices, but one with deep roots in esoteric traditions. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves that we repress, deny, or are unaware of. These are the aspects of our psyche that have been cast into the dark corners of our consciousness, because they are uncomfortable, unpleasant, or difficult to accept, and yet, they hold tremendous power. In the midst of depression, the shadow comes into sharp focus. Old wounds, traumas, unacknowledged desires, and unmet needs all rise to the surface, demanding attention. Depression is the soul's way of forcing us to confront these hidden aspects of the self, forces within us that have been ignored for too long. The darkness of depression becomes a mirror, reflecting all the parts of ourselves that need healing. Now, let's explore one of the greatest misconceptions about depression, that it is something that should simply be avoided or eradicated. We've been conditioned to believe that sadness, despair, and emotional pain are things to fear, to hide, and to suppress. But in many spiritual traditions, pain is not viewed as an enemy, it is seen as a catalyst for personal transformation. In Taoism, the principle of yin and yang teaches us that opposites are inseparable. Light cannot exist without darkness. The Taoist sage Lao Tzu wrote, "What is a butterfly without the chrysalis?" The very process of change, growth, and evolution requires a breakdown before the breakthrough. In this light, depression becomes an essential part of our spiritual growth. It is the darkness from which our inner light will emerge. In the same vein, the ancient alchemists who believed in transforming base materials into gold saw depression as the nigredo, the first stage of the alchemical process. The nigredo is the phase of blackness, decay, and dissolution. It represents the ego's disintegration and the soul's confrontation with its deepest fears and wounds. But from this darkness comes the potential for the creation of something precious. The soul, purified and reborn, emerges from the alchemical fire as something stronger, more integrated, and more enlightened. Psychologically, this phase of the journey often feels chaotic and disorienting, but esoterically, it is one of profound spiritual initiation. It is the soul shedding its attachments to the old self and opening up to a higher form of consciousness. Depression, then, is not just a psychological state, it is a spiritual purging, a necessary cleansing of the soul. Consider the myth of the phoenix, the mythical bird that burns itself in flames only to rise again from the ashes. This story speaks to the very core of spiritual rebirth. In ancient Greece, it was believed that the phoenix was a symbol of eternal renewal, representing the cyclical nature of life, death, and resurrection. Depression mirrors this cycle. As we descend into the depths of our emotional and spiritual pain, we are simultaneously preparing for our own resurrection. Just as the phoenix rises from the ashes, so too does the soul rise from the depths of its suffering, transformed and renewed. But this renewal requires surrender. The greatest obstacle we face in depression is the resistance to letting go of our old identities, beliefs, and attachments. We fight against the darkness because we fear what we will lose. Yet, what we fail to realize is that it is precisely this surrender that allows for the greatest transformation. The ego must die so the soul can live. This is where depression, when understood through an esoteric lens, becomes an opportunity for deep healing. It offers us a chance to reconnect with our higher self, to rediscover our soul's true purpose, and to align with the deeper rhythms of the universe. We are not meant to fight this darkness. We are meant to dance with it, to let it guide us toward a more authentic and awakened existence. Now that we have explored the esoteric and philosophical truths behind depression, it's time to turn these insights into practical tools. How can you, in the midst of your pain, use this knowledge to transform your experience and emerge from the darkness into the light of your true self? The first step is understanding that depression is not something to fight against, but rather something to lean into. In our world of instant fixes and quick cures, we are taught to avoid pain at all costs. But what if the pain itself is the key to your liberation? 1. Shadow work, confronting your hidden self. One of the most powerful tools for navigating depression is shadow work. This practice involves facing the parts of yourself that you have long neglected or suppressed, the fears, the shame, the regrets, and the parts of you that you feel are unworthy of love. Depression often brings these shadows to the surface, and instead of running from them, you can use this moment as an opportunity for integration. To begin shadow work, take a quiet moment each day to sit with your emotions. Don't try to change them or fix them, simply observe them. Ask yourself, what is this feeling trying to teach me? What part of me needs attention right now? Allow yourself to explore the emotions that arise without judgment. Write down your thoughts in a journal, letting your mind roam freely, without restriction. Over time, you'll begin to uncover the hidden beliefs and stories you've been telling yourself. These might include beliefs like I am not good enough or I am unlovable. Depression often amplifies these thoughts, but through shadow work, you can begin to dismantle them. By accepting and integrating your shadow, you allow yourself to heal and step into your true power. 2. Meditation. Connecting with the soul. Meditation is another powerful tool for navigating depression, especially when viewed as a spiritual practice rather than a mere mental exercise. When you meditate, you are not only quieting your mind, but you are also connecting to a higher state of consciousness, the soul's true essence. A simple yet profound meditation technique to try it is the inner light meditation. Sit comfortably in a quiet space, close your eyes, and visualize a light glowing softly in the center of your chest. This light represents the soul's divine essence. As you focus on this light, let it grow brighter and more expansive, filling your entire body and aura. With each breath, feel yourself connect to the eternal truth of who you are beyond the material world and the ego's fears. When depression feels overwhelming, this meditation can act as a reminder that you are more than your emotions, more than the weight of your past, and more than the labels others or society may place on you. You are the light of the soul, always constant, always present. 3. Rituals of renewal, rebirthing yourself. In esoteric traditions, rituals serve as powerful mechanisms for transformation. They help mark the passage from one state of being to another, and they can be especially potent during times of depression. By consciously performing a ritual of renewal, you symbolically mark the transition from darkness to light, from suffering to healing. A simple ritual you can perform is a rebirth ceremony. This can be done in the privacy of your home or outdoors in nature. Begin by lighting a candle to symbolize the awakening of your soul. As the candle burns, speak aloud the intentions you wish to release: old wounds, attachments, negative beliefs. See them as smoke, dissipating into the air, no longer holding power over you. Next, write down a new affirmation or intention that reflects your renewed self. This might be a declaration like, "I release the past and embrace the future with love and trust." As you write, feel the power of these words resonating deep within you. When you are finished, bury the paper beneath the earth, or release it to the wind, signifying your commitment to this new phase of life. Performing this ritual regularly can act as a constant reminder of your soul's ability to renew itself, no matter the challenges you face. It's a tangible way to symbolize your spiritual growth, allowing you to feel empowered during difficult times. 4. Embracing the flow of life, trusting the process. Perhaps the most difficult aspect of navigating depression is the desire for control. We often fight against our feelings because we believe we should be able to fix them or make them disappear. But true healing comes when we release the need for control and surrender to the flow of life. One of the key teachings in Taoism is the concept of wu wei, or effortless action. It's the idea that rather than forcing things to happen, we should allow them to unfold naturally. When you are experiencing depression, instead of trying to push through it or resist it, practice letting go. Trust that this is part of the soul's process, and that even the darkest moments are leading you to a higher state of awareness. This doesn't mean passively accepting your pain, but rather trusting that everything is happening for a reason. Whether you can see it now or not, allow yourself to feel what you feel, but also allow yourself to release the attachment to the need for immediate change. The soul works in its own time, and it's often in the most difficult moments that the greatest transformations take place. 5. Grounding yourself, connecting to the earth. Finally, remember that during times of spiritual upheaval, grounding yourself is essential. The emotional turbulence that comes with depression can feel like being disconnected from reality. To counter this, find practices that anchor you to the present moment and reconnect you to the earth. Spending time in nature is one of the most powerful ways to ground yourself. Stand barefoot on the earth, and with each step, feel yourself becoming more rooted. Feel the energy of the earth flowing into you, offering you stability, strength, and healing. If you can't go outside, try placing a stone or crystal in your hand and focusing on its texture. The earth has an incredible capacity to heal, and when you ground yourself in it, you allow yourself to feel more connected to your own divine nature. As we reflect on the journey of understanding depression through a spiritual lens, we realize that it is not a curse to be avoided but a powerful initiation, a call from the soul itself, urging us to transform, to purge, and to emerge renewed. The darkness, though overwhelming, is not permanent. It is a passage, a necessary stage in the soul's eternal evolution. Depression, when viewed as an esoteric and spiritual journey, becomes a powerful teacher. It teaches us to face the hidden parts of ourselves, to embrace our shadows, and to trust in the wisdom that life has to offer. It teaches us that, as the alchemists believed, from the deepest darkness comes the brightest light. By practicing shadow work, meditative connection, rituals of renewal, and embracing life's flow, we begin to integrate the lessons of our pain. We learn that we are not broken, but simply in the process of transformation, moving from one stage of consciousness to another. The soul, through the dark night, rises again, stronger, wiser, and more connected to its true essence. In the end, depression is not something to be feared. It is an opportunity, a cosmic invitation to reconnect with our spiritual self and to align with the deeper rhythms of existence. Remember, just as the phoenix rises from the ashes, so too will you. Trust in the process. Know that on the other side of this darkness is a version of yourself that is whole, powerful, and awakened. So, the next time you find yourself in the grip of depression, instead of fighting it, ask yourself, what is this moment trying to teach me? What hidden truth is waiting to be revealed? Allow yourself to surrender to the journey, knowing that this too shall pass, and in its wake, you will rise anew. And as you continue to explore the mysteries of the soul and the deeper realms of consciousness, remember that your path is sacred. You are never alone in this journey. The wisdom of the ancients, the guidance of the universe, and the light of your own soul are always with you, waiting to lead you into a new dawn. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the spiritual truth behind depression. If this video resonated with you, please leave a comment below and share your thoughts. Remember to subscribe for more insights into the mysteries of the soul and the journey of awakening. Until next time, trust the path, and may your light shine brighter than ever.